As you know, this is the wrap-up session of the Fast Track on Energy Communities. We had 3 sessions between yesterday and today. The first one was chaired by Silvia on the business model, innovative business model for energy communities and the European projects following them. Today we had in the morning a session with the technologies that are enabling this change in our energy network, and it just finished the session on user engagement, on how to make more people joining this revolution. So this is the agenda that we just made almost, because again the presentation from Simona just finished, but we are going to have a small session for the outputs of the different working groups, the different clusters. Silvia will present the one on business model, I will present the one of enabling technologies, and Simona the one on social engagement. Simona will be the one without slides, but I also have just one small slide to show. So I will ask you to be careful, because there will be no slides to follow. Then we will have the intervention of Vera, which is the deputy for the European Commission DG ENER from the Renewable Energy Unit, and she will present us one of the last tenders that the European Commission presented on energy communities and on the creation of the energy community repository. Then we will have a little presentation from Christian Moscardi from the cluster Digital of Catalonia about, I mean, it will be a provocation more than a presentation, in the sense that he will show and he will present in his opinion, in our opinion, which are the things that are mandatory for making projects, European projects, to work together and improve the collaboration between also energy communities and pilot sites. And then we will have Raymond Sterling from R2M that will present a bit the industrial the industry point of view on energy communities in opposite to the one of the Energy Commission. So we will see in this session all the different point of view for this topic. So I will ask to Silvia to start to present to start her presentation, to share the screen, and to have a small presentation of the main outputs of the business model session. Please, Silvia.
Yes, thank you, Mario. You know, the fact that I am
Silvia, we still have problems. We still have problems listening to you. I can share the screen for you, but we still have a problem with the audio. Okay, Silvia, I can see that. Okay, try to speak. Let's see if now it's working. No, unfortunately not yet. Try to not share the screen. I can do it, and then you will try to speak. Okay, I have your presentation. Okay. Okay. Wait a sec. Stop sharing the screen, please, Silvia, so I can do it. Okay, thank you. What is it? Okay. Okay, Silvia, try again, and if not, I will take your praise in the presentation. You are muted now. Let's see if it's. Try to unmute you and try to speak. No, unfortunately not. We cannot listen to you. I'm sorry, Silvia. What we can do, I mean, I will present it for you, and then if I'm missing something, please write it in the chat, or we will try again later. Okay. So these are the speakers that we had yesterday in the very interesting workshop about the business model, the innovative business model for energy communities. 7 different European projects participated in there. It was very nice, and these are the main outputs that we had. For example, the one important thing that came out from the workshop was that we need to create individual business model for all the different stakeholders that are involved in energy communities, and we cannot just stop on one single one for all of them, because everybody has different channels for communication, for example, different costs and different ways of interacting with the other users, with the other stakeholders involved. So this is very needed in that sense. We have also to include to think first about the self-balancing and the P2P peer-to-peer trading before going to think about allowing the community to give flexibility services to the grid. So first to focus on the local and then export it to the distribution grid. This was another very interesting point. Depending on the type of the energy community, we have to structure different business models. So if it's bottom up from let's say from a community association, from an association of neighbors, it will have a business model. But if, for example, it started from a municipality, it will have another business model. What we have to understand from the beginning is to try to identify which are the needs of the creator of the energy community, and from there create the business model canvas that is needed for the community itself to be developed. Here there is a list of energy community business models, important things. So, for example, the social partnership, why it's important, the relationship between public and private investor, for example, actors, sorry. It's very important, the municipal involvement, the people from the decision makers and the policy makers have to be included in the process. We have to find new ways of financing, and one of these, for example, is crowdfunding. Very important is to find a way to raise awareness clearly, and so enabling the exchange of knowledge between the different actors, because there will be technical and not technical actors that will have to understand each other. The regulation, clearly this is a great point that Vera and all the speakers pointed out, that is very important. So the transposition from the European law to the national ones. The kind of ownership that the energy community has, so again, depending on the different actors creating it, and taking into account that the tools and the technologies that have to be involved in the development of energy communities have to be as much as low cost as possible to create enough revenues for all the actors involved. Last but not least, what is important is not only to consider the financial benefit, but also to consider the environmental and the social one that the creation of energy communities have, because in some cases it's not enough the financial impact for convincing people to be part of this revolution. So this is a bit in a nutshell, in 5 minutes, what was discussed yesterday in this business model session. We will have time later for questions. This was just a summary of what we discussed. And now I will pass to what has been said in the enabling technologies working session. I will continue to share my screen. You will see it now here. No, sorry, it's not this one. Wait, first I have to find it, and then I can share my screen. Please use the question and answer section for asking your question. We will discuss them later on. Okay. Okay, I have it. So I will share my screen. You'll see over here that it's just very focus point that I wanted to point it out from the presentation of today. What was said in the workshop was that everybody is working on a toolbox and on platforms that allow the participant in an energy community, but not only the users, but also the other stakeholders involved, also the aggregator, the ESCOs, the installers, the energy providers, etc., are there in the sense that they are being developed. There are many projects working on that. What is needed right now is to try them out to reach an higher TRL, to make them marketable, and for them to reach the market and being implemented in different contexts. Another important point, and very nice one in my opinion, is that not only the solar PV and batteries have to be taken into account, but all kinds of renewables, because in some pilots we have some resources that can be used. I think about biomass, for example, agricultural waste that can be reused for the creation of energy, but they are not taken into account because we just focus on PVs and battery, which are the main kind of technologies that we see that fit for energy communities. So taking into account also all the other kind of renewable energies is important. Another important and key aspect is that ICT is clearly one of the main, the basis, the backbone aspect to take into account. First, we have to digitalize the energy network, and then we can include features in that. And for example, artificial intelligence and machine learning are fundamental for letting the platform, these toolboxes, to learn from themselves and learn from the user experience to improve and become better, and being ready for the market after the duration of the project. What it should be focused, what our research and development should be focused right now is on integrating these different features that I was talking before. For example, the digital twins for the user, but also the digital twin for the buildings, the forecasting of the prices of energy, the forecasting of the weather in existing platform, in unique platforms. All these different features have to be put all together, and they have to work properly. For example, the blockchain is one of these features that should be provided to increase trustability of the system. From what our speaker said, the problem is not on the technologies itself for the development of energy communities, but it's more on other things. It's more like broad. It includes social engagement, the necessity to find revenue streams useful for all the participants in the energy communities, and the regulatory and legislative issues from the transposition from European to national rules. So this was, again, in a nutshell, what we discussed, but I think that the outputs in here are very interesting and a bit different compared to what we are used to see in this kind of events. So now for the last cluster that has been presented just half an hour ago, I will let Simona present. So she was the moderator of the session, and she has it. Okay, yes, I will just share the screen for her. Wait a second. Qual era? Questo qua vuoi? Okay, let me share the screen with you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Fabio. Well, of course, I didn't have time to present any slides, but we have this, which is the most important thing. So it's the people part. So this was a collaboration of different projects. I was very eager of hearing what has been developed so far in these social engagement projects. And I accepted to chair this session because I really believe that energy communities are the experience of first of all, a social transition, and after an energy transition. And it is true that we need to tackle technological aspects and business model aspects, but none of these can be activated without the adoption of these solutions from the user's perspective. We know how difficult it was to deliver technology adoption strategies at the building level, and now that we're dealing with communities, it is even more important to deal with this technology adoption concept. So I took note of let's say 10 key takeaways from your presentations, from this carousel of projects, and I'm just going to go through very quickly. I don't have the slides, but yeah, you can maybe just follow. So first of all, the first concept is convenience. So there is no energy community, there is no social engagement without a full understanding for the people why this is useful for them. And the key concept is make it easy for people to understand why there is a benefit for joining an energy community, instead of just being an independent producer and using their own PV panel for their own self-consumption. So this is the first important element. The second one is trust. We've seen from the experiences from the Hestia project, but also from the Energy to Peers project, that most of the energy communities are born because there was trust within an existing community. So it could be like a community of practice or any other type of community, but the element of trust and the bond between the key enablers was fundamental for the success of the actions within the community. So finding the enabler is a key connected point. The third element is engagement. So raising the social awareness is of course really important, and creating engagement within a community of people needs to deal with a lot of work, a lot of field work with the anthropologists, with the social scientists, and we have different approaches that we can deploy there. There was a question before in our session asking, is there a fit for all approach for energy engagement or social engagement? Maybe not, but maybe there are some practices that work better that we can take as a lesson learned. The fourth point is the benefit stacking approach. And I think this really relates to the fact that we are trying to triangulate between technology adoption and business model. So finding what are the benefits that really resonate with people is important. The fifth point is the just transition. So all the participatory model that we can highlight, define, and maybe with this, carousel of projects, European projects, we can really try to find out some key takeaways also for policymakers, because we know that there is this, huge gap between what the energy directive is saying and what the national approaches are, introducing in our national practices. So here, maybe we can help also the Commission and the policymaker into this effort. The sixth element is gamification. I really like this one. It's not a game, but really try to make it funny for people and easy to understand. There are a lot of different gamification elements that we can deploy, and I will be very happy also to gather these experiences from the different approaches in a kind of a cross sectoral way. The seventh point is to make it relatable. So make it interesting, meaningful for people, and connects also with the gamification approach. Another point is to find agreement. Discussions and definition of goals and definition of objectives needs to be made clear with the population. Without that, you cannot think that you can achieve the settlement of an energy community, because if there is no agreement, it's difficult to understand. One point was about the champion. We found that, you know, you call it the champion or you call it the hero of a community is very often what triggers the others to become follower for the implementation. And the last one was the one-stop shop concept, which is indeed very transversal. We saw many times for the renovation words, like a deep renovation word. But I think like combining digital and social platform is also one of the elements that we saw in the different projects. So again, platform, the platform words that comes together with the, you know, hybrid digital and social aspect. So yeah, this was the key takeaway from our session. Unfortunately, we were not able to deliver a proper Q&A, but yeah, there is an open Slido that I left open. So I think there are 3 questions open, and maybe during this, you know, 1 hour and a half, you can still play around. And I will be, you know, gathering the questions on the Slido, and, you know, when we're going to get in contact again, we can share this. So, you know, your answers are going to stay. So maybe you're not going to be able to discuss right now, but I will be sharing the answers via email. Thank you, Fabio.
Thank you very much. Way better analysis and summary of mine, but very straight to the point. Thanks. Okay. So now, according to the agenda, now that we have given to all the participants, all the audience, a bit of an overview of what we discussed in the last sessions, I would like to invite on the virtual floor Vera, because she will now share with you this the last one of the last tenders that have been released by the European Commission. But I want to start with a question for you, Vera. This is, I mean, from what you heard in these last 10 minutes of the wrap up of each sessions, there is something that surprised you, or was everything in line with what you expected and what you know and about the environment of energy communities? There is something, a key aspect that you are taking into account after our summaries. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Fabio and everybody. Sorry that I cannot be with you in Rome. I would have loved. And thank you very much for the summaries of the sessions, because I was able to follow one, but not all of them. So this was very useful. What has surprised me? Actually, not so much. So I saw many links to what I will present, the Energy Community Repository, and I hope it will help to address some of the needs and the barriers that were identified and discussed in the different sessions. So I'm hopeful that it will be really useful and that many of you will be able to interact with it.
Absolutely, it will solve a lot of the questions and of the challenges that we have seen, or at least we hope that. But now you can share your screen if you can. There is on the bottom of the screen there is an icon representing a screen, and you should be able to present your own presentation. If not, I can do it for you. Can go on presentation. Yeah, we can see it very well. Yes. Go ahead.
At the beginning.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Vera Kissler, and I work in the renewables unit of the Directorate General of Energy. And this initiative actually is originating from the European Parliament, but we are implementing it in DG NR. And so what is the idea behind the Energy Community Repository? It is basically to bring together all the information which is out there, all the good practices, and help energy communities to develop. So it is both to monitor what is happening and to support really in very practical terms the energy communities all over Europe, to foster citizen engagement and to provide guidance and support in the exchange of best practices. And I will present the 4 main areas of activities. First, I should mention that this is not yet in operation. As Fabio mentioned, it is a tender that we launched not so long ago, so the contractor is not yet selected, but as soon as it will be, the activities can start. The first area of activities is, like I mentioned, to act as an advisory and information hub. So there's the monitoring aspect of the legal, regulatory, and policy framework across the different member states, and the mapping and analysis of the development of energy communities. So all this should be gathered in the repository. The identification of barriers is, of course, an important part here, and the key action drivers and recommendations for the setting up of an enabling framework, which most member states are about to do or currently doing as part of the implementation of the European legislation. The repository should also do impact assessments, so really meaning the impacts of the energy communities, looking at economic, environmental, and social effects. And all this data that will be gathered should, of course, be communicated and disseminated across the EU. Now, more in detail on identification of best practices. This is a quite broad concept, I would say, to identify best practices to set up, develop, enable, and support energy communities. Energy communities as defined in the EU legislation, and support also member states and regional and local authorities which want to support energy communities in legal, regulatory, and policy terms. So the best practices could be in different areas, like measures and programs on how to raise citizen awareness and engagement, justice and social acceptance, on existing supporting actions from local, regional, and national authorities, administrative solutions, for example, models for rules of associations, or examples of agreements with DSOs, suppliers, aggregators. Also technological solutions, like, for example, on electricity sharing or the use of blockchain, providing information on the origin of electricity from generation assets belonging to the community, and last but not least, access to finance. So I think here we do cover quite some ground of what has been discussed yesterday and today. Then the third work area, let's say, is the technical assistance to concrete energy community initiatives. The contractor is asked to set up a call for proposals, or several of them, to select projects which are relevant and meriting to receive such assistance, and then to provide it, of course. And this could include investment assistance, advisory support, exchange visits, all that. And the last area of activities is a bit cross-cutting and interlinking with all the others. It's about communication and outreach, because obviously it's very important to disseminate the project's outputs, and also looking to do it at the local level. The contractor will have to publish a series of guidance documents, organize conferences, training and capacity building workshops, and set up a network of stakeholders. And all this should be hosted on a website on the European Commission's Europa server. And that is what I can say. We hope to see the launch very soon, and then to see you interacting with this as much as possible.
That will be great for sure. Vera, do you know exactly? I mean, more or less when it will come out, the results.
Not exactly. No, the procedures are long and still ongoing. But I would say end of the year, beginning of next year.
Okay, that would be nice to have something settled for I don't know, in 1 year or something like that. That's for sure. It will enhance more communities to follow. Also because I saw in these sessions that one of the like the things that worry the most people and communities of people that want to create a community with a bottom-up approach is the legislation, the bureaucracy that there is behind all the processes that are needed for setting up the community, the energy community um, as a deep, let's say, as a new entity. And so having the best practices from other projects in the same area, in the same region, I mean, I'm sure that it will help a lot. And for me, it's the key point in there. For clearly also the technical and for the user engagement, it will help a lot. But for administrative issues, for me, it's the key point that will be needed to be tackled in the repository, in the best practice. So thank you very much, Vera. Now I invite to stage Christian. As I told you, he will also try to give his and let's say our overview on why European projects should collaborate between them in order to facilitate, to empower, and to push the creation of communities, of energy communities. Because we are seeing right now in our project in which we are working together that there are very many common points that we can tackle together, but this is not easy to do, depending on the pilot site that are involved inside the projects also. We are trying to do it because it was like a specific request of the call that we won as a project, but still we have to find the right way to do it. So I will let Christian tell you more, but this is just like a taste of presentation for further discussion later on, and we would like you, Vera, to be involved as well. So thank you, Christian. I will pass you the microphone as well.
Thank you very much, Fabio. I think that, as you said, this is just a start in order to discuss communication between H2020 projects, especially after this period that no physical meetings have been possible, and we envision that the execution of the projects are going to be much more tangible from now on. So I hope that I don't take too much time into explaining what I wrote. I'm not sharing a presentation, but as responsible for the communication and dissemination work package in the Estia project, in the beginning I listed, I prepared a kind of a list of bullet points of the basics about communication strategies for H2020 project, involved in the building of energy communities. But during the previous sessions, I must confess that I've been overwhelmed by the content and the initiatives and the ideas from all the different projects that are present here today. So Estia, as many other H2020 projects, is facing the energy transition process with innovative technological and digital developments, for instance, a platform, but also with social sciences and humanities approaches, in order to tackle the challenge of building and supporting, the creation of energy communities. So while the technical and technological activities are very, well defined and follow a very detailed work plan, the social aspects, are much a broader scope, basically because it implies understanding human behavior in a fields as difficult as the use of energy, right? Especially at home in residential areas, and also because we are also involving end users, into into new exercises to validate our solutions, but also for them to incorporate new habits. So this is a real big challenge for our project. So at Destia, we have the luck of having of selecting 3 different pilots. And by different, we mean that they are different in terms of demographic aspects, of climatological also conditions, and also cultural aspects. And all these different characteristics, probably these different pilot approaches are replicated in other H2020 projects, which some are, some are islands, continental, urban, rural. But having said that, in addition to the basic communication objectives of a H2020 project, which is creating awareness about the project, identifying the right audiences and stakeholders, and also disseminating all the project results, we think that is not enough. And we think that is not enough because we must go beyond these communication efforts, because we are having a much more serious and ambitious goal. What we are trying to do is we are trying to transform all this technological, digital, and innovative and extremely technically specialized language into understandable vocabulary for the end users. And this is a very, 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 very difficult challenge. We are also trying to communicate how these results will become viable products, right? It's the business models that we are working on now. And we're trying to advance the benefits and at the same time manage their expectations, as Ageliki was saying before. So at Estia, obviously we have networked with and teamed up with other H2020 projects. Thanks also to the collaboration with R2M, we have identified which are the projects that are much more aligned with our objectives. And we have already coordinated some collaborative actions and started planning workshops in order to share best practices, etc. But we have also realized that there is much more to be done. We are talking about finding new tools and new platforms, that can support and facilitate the creation of energy communities. So we thank initiatives like Vera has just presented, because it's the perfect scenario, right? I mean, Europe Energy Communities Repository, is the ideal tool for us to develop this. So I hope that they launch it very soon. But we also see that there are necessary other proposals, like, for instance, the Ener community webpage, which is it's much more like a independent or private initiative, or for instance, an overview that it has been just published by the Covenant of Mayors, which includes publications and reports, existing reports on regulatory and governance models for prosumers and energy communities, or it also includes financial models or practical handbooks. So these are elements that we would like to leverage on in order to build our communication activities. So in order to close the loop, I also take your advice. I mean, we need not only the current top-down proposals, but it's most important, to develop bottom-up initiatives, that empowers the citizens, that triggers the trust that Simona was mentioning before, and that speaks the language of the end users, and that allow us to define different roadmaps in order to consolidate this new role of the end users. I mean, is in this new smarted energy sector, which is a completely new field. So from Estia, and I am sure from the rest of the H2020 projects, we are happy to contribute to creating these new platforms to allow citizens to get together, to discuss, to share practices, and to learn from each other, and also to share about the solutions that, for instance, Estia is trying to achieve. So we invite all the different EU projects to communicate with us, to get together, and to implement these new tools and platforms.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this insight. This is what we are trying to do in Nestia. As I said at the beginning, Christian is making, and all the partners are making a lot of effort in trying to make technical wording in non-technical in non-technical wording to reach as many people as possible. This is difficult for sure. And again, what he was mentioning about these new inputs, for example, coming from the Covenant of Mayor, it's very important, very, very important. When I saw the publication, I was very, very happy because it has in 5 pages, I don't know how many links, but like 25, 30 links with very, very nice inputs, very nice publication, very nice example, very nice projects. But these should reach also the final users, the people who live in the communities, and how to do this let's say exchange of information, not only from the policy and the decision makers to the project, to the European project, but also to the final users. Well, this is something that is still open, and we have to understand all together in the next future, and we are going to try to do it as much as possible. Okay, for the last presentation of the day and of this session of the day, I invite Raymond to the floor. As I told you in the agenda, he will just give an overview of which is from like a SME point of view the current and the future action that we should take, and we should implement for the development of energy communities. I let you the floor because you know way better than me what's going on in the field. Thank you.
Well, I'm not so sure about that, but thanks. Maybe you can put a slide in the background so it doesn't show all your phrases, like introductory. So, yeah, the agenda, the first one, whichever. Not the only thing that we have there. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, hello everyone. I'm Raymond Sterling from R2M Solutions Spain. I'm the director of that branch, and actually we have been for quite some time already trying to push this topic of energy communities, particularly in Spain. When we first started there talking about that, it was very funny because people will look at us and they wouldn't understand the concept. They will say it's impossible to do. People are not going to talk together. Now we're reaching the point where actually there is a lot of interest. People is saying, yes, we can do it. We want to do it. How do we apply it? And when they come to us, then reality hits us in the face. We are facing many interesting situations where we need to match what we want to do with what we can do in the regulation, what we can do with the financing, what we can do with the business models, and what we have learned from European projects. Before I go on, I want to actually thank all the projects that have come together under this initiative. I want to thank Fabio, Laura, and Blanca also from setting it up. I think it has been amazing. And in the years I have been in R2M, I haven't seen such a large workshop being put together that also took almost a full day. So this is congrats, guys. Also want to thank Vera from the European Commission from attending and giving this overview on the repository, on all the efforts that the European Commission is putting forward to have this energy communities topic really share, really having the people engage, and really reaching the maximum power that it can reach. During these days, we have seen how technology can really deliver, how technology is there for us to use it, how it can match, it can adapt to the different needs of the user. But many times when we are outside the bubble of what is a European project and a piloting project, when we face reality, we see that we need to start from scratch. We see that we have a lot of technology. We can show, we can get people really engaged by showing them all the nice sci-fi things that we can do with artificial intelligence, with blockchains, with the platforms. But then we have really to start by teaching people about energy, how they use energy, how they have to learn to use energy differently, how switching on the light means that in the back you have a complexity in the system that they don't realize, that is similar to internet. You use it, but you don't know what you have behind. So we are going through the process of changing the behavior, of the becoming aware, and that sometimes it becomes a bit frustrating because you have all this power, all the things that you can do, but you are not able as a company. I'm speaking also for ourselves, that we cannot deliver all that we can do because we need to take little steps, baby steps in bridging research to the market. What we're doing, one very, very nice thing from European projects in general is that many companies use as a platform to develop their own products that they already have on the market. But when there are industrial companies like us that we are taking research and bringing that into the market as first commerce, at the first that try to actually fill those into the market, we have to also do the work of teaching people what can be done, how it can be used, and it's a much slower process that you will think in the beginning. So basically, when we talk about user behavior, is I wonder when we say, how do we create now energy citizens? How do we make people aware? We have in these projects, we have social sciences involvement, we have methodologies to integrate with them, we talk to people, but how do we really reach this critical mass? We are trying to find approaches to reach the critical mass by which you don't really need so much effort into teaching people, okay? But they start teaching, let's say, themselves. How do we go about training the trainers is the approach I like to use. So I don't think it's feasible, is even in any business model that for every community you do 10 workshops to teaching how this can be done and you start from scratch, etc., etc. At some point, it needs to start rolling in itself. No, a single company cannot do it. So I think that's part of the purpose what the energy community repository is set forward. No, so we can start doing that. The Commission realized that, and we have also participating in many calls about that. So we need really to do that because all the business model that have been presented in here, they reach a point. They have to reach a point where they become cost effective. Okay, we cannot rely all the time on on European money or even on grants from the municipalities, next generation projects. So they're gonna set up everything, but at some point it have to be sustainable. And how do we make that sustainable? We have to standardize process. We have to have the technology ready. We have to have ready packs. So when we go and train the people, they already are upskilled in the proper way. And we have really to have, of course, there is not a single business model that will capture all, okay, because it's different for different stakeholders. We have service providers, energy providers, we have the citizen. So everyone will have a different business model. But at the end of the day, even if we are providing a variety of services, we still need to pay with euros. We still need to put the money, and we still need to get some return of investment, okay? Because otherwise we're always relying on public money, and at the end it's not sustainable. So that is something that we are facing a lot when we are fielding energy communities. And so before I go to the user engagement, which is a whole different topic in itself, the cost effectiveness also links to how do we valorize the extra services, how do we make sure that energy peer-to-peer trading really happens, how do we ensure the different types of energy communities and the different readiness levels that they have in terms of technology can be exploited to the maximum. And not necessarily we have to field IoT sensors everywhere. That's probably not cost effective, but maybe we have to make the best of what we can while we build cash to bring forward all the different technology that we want, no? Because we have seen a lot of technologies and there is a lot of reliance of data. We need a lot of data to train the AI models, to train the behavioral model. We have data. But collecting the data costs quite a bit of money. So we need also to take that into account when we're building business model. And for that, we also need, and we have seen the European Commission and the European Union put forward the policy and legislative framework to do that. But we really need to push our policymakers to translate the spirit of that into the local legislation. And so it cannot be something that is just pseudo fit to what the legislation already there is. It has to be something that really you can improve on it, you can put forward, and maybe it has to disrupt some business model, but it has to go there, because otherwise, if we put too many restrictions, too many bureaucracy, too much difficulties to it, people are not going to engage. And if they're not going to engage, we are really not going to be able to field energy communities. And that's not only about, it's not only because people is not going to be engaged, it's because the complexity of dealing with the different stakeholders is going to be so great, it's going to be so big that it's really no one is going to be able to understand how to put it together. So how do we create, and we're going to do this in different ways in Estia, in different projects. So how do we create these ready packages? How do we push the legislation? How do we train the people? How do we train the trainers? These are the things that from an industry perspective, or at least from an R2M perspective, that we are trying really hard, at least in Italy and in Spain, to fill these energy communities. We are facing this day to day, and we are looking at what the different European projects are doing, because that's what we look at, and other colleagues are doing, to implement this innovative way of thinking. So people have not been so far used to think of energy as a service even, or as something they have to manage. It's always has been a commodity, they pay for it and that's it. But they need to change this, and we need to be ready to provide with all the tools, all the answers that they have when they come. So my real closing session speech will be, we really need to have more upskilling. We really need to have a far-reaching speech, a far-reaching technology package shops, not being only relying on public money. So we really need to push forward for things that can sustain themselves. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. You touched all the different points that are the main issues for the creation and development of energy communities. So thank you very much. It was inspiring for sure. And yeah, we are working for that in R2M, in all the different companies and research centers that are part of Estia, and that were here in the cluster presenting their work. Okay, so now I will pass to a bit of discussion, because we had very nice insights over here. Now it's time for discussing. And I don't know, Silvia, if you came back or not, if you solved your problems, if you wanted to add something on the presentation with business models, what are your key points, key outcomes, and if you want to share them with us, and if you can share them with us. You are muted now. Let's see if we are luckier right now, but probably not. I see. Problems in the Netherlands with the okay. I saw that you posted some questions. They forgot the final slide. That's okay. We can pass the covenant of merit publication. We have the actual chat. If you can share can hear some background noise, so maybe we can listen to it. Okay, try again if you want. If you want to add something. No, it's not working. Okay, do you want to find it? No, it's on the chat. It's one of the last things that I should. Okay, so Vera, I don't know if you have anything to reply to Christian and Raymond presented, in the sense of how do you see, from your personal opinion, that how projects can collaborate between them, if you can share any best practices that you've seen during your years in the European Commission, or if there is any point that Raymond touched that you think, from European Commission point of view, you should focus on. Whatever you would like to share with us, it would be nice for us. So please go ahead.
Well, first of all, it's of course nice to see that you are discussing amongst each other between the different projects in the workshop over 2 days, and that's very encouraging. We need this interaction, otherwise everyone is working in their corner, and we make much less progress, I think. So thank you very much for this. And yeah, to react maybe to Christian, I mean, this is really true. We are building an energy democracy, so we need to educate the citizens of this energy democracy. So yeah, the translation into normal people's languages, I think, is crucial. So often I ask myself, so if I wanted to set up an energy community, how would I do? And it seems really complex. And so yes, a lot has still to be done in terms of regulatory framework, of course, and enabling framework by the member states and other public authorities, but a lot also relies on the engagement of people in civil society. And so there's a lot to do. And I just hope that the repository will be the place to go for everyone who's asking themselves the question how to go about it, and yeah, we can progress step by step. And you're muted, Fabio.
Thank you. No, yeah, I was saying that let's hope for that, because it was for sure a nice input from the European Commission. Let's hope that we will be able together to work on that, and not only the people that are going to set up the repository, but that this collaboration process comes from all different parts, from all different stakeholders, and even if you are not directly related to the repository, that you can put in there your inputs, your best practices, and anything that can help other people and other projects to be developed in the future. So I think that this should be a collaboratory project and process. And I mean, we should all push, but I mean, from your point of view, I think that you can have a even better push strategy, let's say, for making all the projects and all the people working on this field collaborating to make the repository a good place for replicating and for scaling up what has been done until now. This would be great, because it will allow many people to do the same as we are doing right now in technical projects, but more real life, and as Raymond was saying, not only thanks to European grants, but also with self-sustainable tools. And let's hope that this will be the way to go. I really hope for that.
Fabio, we do not hear you very well. I think you're a bit far from the microphone.
Just because the microphone was there. I hope this was clear. Anyway, I mean, the audience over here luckily listened to me. If there was anything else that was not clear, please write on the chat. I don't know if from the audience there is any particular question you want to go deeper into, any particular part that we discussed until now. And if not, we can even
Can I try to? Probably you cannot hear me, but
Yeah, Silvia, we can right now.
Yes? Okay,
Yes.
wow. So in the final minutes of today, I finally can talk freely. Yes, I found Raymond's presentation very interesting, and I understand what he means when he talks about pushing forward and that we need to scale up, etc. However, when we think about that, I think it's also really important that we consider also, you mentioned energy democracy just now, Vera. That means that we also have to get in place checks and balances in the process of further digitalizing our energy system. Because yes, the energy system is highly regulated and a lot of regulation is no longer fit for these times. But the digital system is not very well regulated. And that is exactly where we have seen in other areas how that can have negative side effects, which in the end boil down on often more vulnerable groups in society. Think of platformization, the impacts of Uber, Airbnb, negative impacts on neighborhoods. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there. And I think that policy should learn from earlier experiences, and we should find ways to be in time with making sure that this digitalization is going on the right tracks in terms of just energy transition and democracy as well. So I wonder how you look at that from a European policy perspective.
I can only agree. One of the key slogans of the European Green Deal is to leave no one behind, and I hope we can achieve it. And what you're raising are important points. I think digital skills and privacy in the digital space and all this, and the regulatory aspects of the energy market.
It seems that not just in the energy domain, but generally, there's a tendency not to ask transparency when it comes to digital technologies. At least, for instance, within the Netherlands, we also see that public services make use of digital solutions, whereby there's too little attention for what's done with consumer data. So it's actually often public services and governments themselves that are not taking sufficient measures to protect consumer data and security.
Maybe to also provoke a bit and to continue on the social aspect, there's a lot of discussion all around Europe about the rising energy prices. I was wondering if you have any reactions. Some of you are from Spain, where the discussion is particularly topical. Whether this could give a push also to initiatives bottom up and energy communities, because that could be a way to keep costs also under control for the members. Is it an argument that could work?
Yes, for sure. It can also help to see at the good examples of some of the northern countries in Europe that set since the past. I mean, they were in the Netherlands. I think they were one of the first countries to create and to enable this kind of renewable communities and to let people share energy between them and self-consume and exchange the energy that was that they were not using at the moment. So for sure, from member states' perspective, and from, for example, from Spain and from Italy, that are the places in which we work as R2M, I think there is a lot of learning possible, and taking these lessons from the Netherlands and from other countries in terms of also of data and user privacy. So because it's being done and in many different ways in there. So I think it will be good to take good examples and successful examples as a first and as a starting point. And yeah, that's what we are doing at least, and this is good for me.
If I may add to that, I think there was a few interesting presentations that specifically developed value propositions where no upfront investment costs are asked from energy community members, and I think those are really promising. So I look forward to see what they bring in practice and if they can move beyond the pilot phase. Actually.
Yeah. And also using already existing and installed assets. That's also a key, and not having to newly install like solar panels and batteries, for example. And this can be for sure a push. And this is also like one of the pilots that we have in Estia. We are trying to do that. Okay, if there are no other points to touch, or if the audience wants to ask something else, I think we can close the session. A very big thank to all the participants, to Vera, to Raymond, to Christian, and to Silvia and Simona for participating and let us see their view of on this topic. I think there is a lot of work to do. So I mean, from tomorrow again, we will work on that. We will work on our projects and like try to go farther, not only stay on the European projects framework, but also going farther and replicate what we are doing in there. And nothing, I think we will stay in contact anyway. So thank you very much, Vera, once again.
Thank you all.
See you
I'm
next
looking
time.
forward to receive any materials or conclusions if you.
Absolutely, will be done. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye bye.